say they give you two different graphs, f of x is equal to r of x squared and g of x is equal to 2x plus 4. Okay, by die eerste vraag vra hulle vir jou of die inverse van f 'n funksie sal wees and why. So what type of a graph do we have when we look at f? It's a parabola. So you have to know that the inverse of a parabola is not a function. Why? Why will the inverse of a parabola not be a function? Yes, so you can either write down it as more than one y value for every x value, or you can write it doesn't pass the vertical line test. Okay, then at 4.2 they say jy moet nou die definisieversameling van die parabool gaan beperk sodat sy inverse wel 'n funksie is. So there's more than one way that you can do that, and it doesn't matter which one you chose. I'm going to do both. So if you wrote one of those two, you're right. Then for 4.3, they said give the equation of the inverse of g in the form y is equal to. So I'm first going to write g, but I'm going to change the g of x to a y. Okay, en onthou tot hier het jy nog niks gedoen om die inverse funksie te kry nie. Jy gaan skryf hom net vir jouself makliker. So wat gaan ons nou doen om die inverse funksie te kry? Ons gaan ruil net daai twee om. Then you say it's x minus 4 is equal to 2y. So y is equal to that. You can also write r of x. Okay, then for 4.4, they ask for the range of f of x. So this one looks more or less like this. Because it doesn't have a b and a c value, you have to know that it means it wasn't translated up or down, nor left or right. So, julle sien sy armpies wys boontoe en jy kan ook daaruit aflei dat sy draaipunt by 0 en by 0 lê. So you have the shape and you have the turning point, even though you didn't have to draw the sketch. So then it will be y is bigger than or equal to 0. Or y is the element of 0 to infinity. 4 and 5. Okay. Almal fine met nummer 4? These are just basic run-of-the-mill questions that they can ask you for these. Dan by nummer 5 gee hulle vir ons die grafiek van f van x en hy word beperk. Goed, so as jy kyk na die vorm van daai ene, dit lyk soos 'n halwe parabool. So they just limited the domain to only negative x values. En hulle gee vir jou 'n punt wat op die grafiek is en dan vra hulle vir jou bepaal die waarde van a. Okay, so you have two different coordinates on that graph, but one of them is 0 and 0. So if we go and substitute 0 and 0, then we're going to lose the term with the a in it. So you can't use that one. You have to use the other point that you have on that to find that value. So ek gaan instel. En dan is A gelyk aan 5 op 4. Okay, en onthou jy moet kyk of hierdie goed vir jou sin maak, want onthou as A 'n negatiewe getal is, dan moet hy hier lê. Okay? So omdat A positief is, wys sy armpies boontoe. And then they ask you to determine the equation of the inverse function. Now remember, this one, you know now that that is 5 over 4. Bless you. If I draw the inverse function, it's going to look like that. Okay? So remember, if it's up here, it'll be y is equal to a positive of some root. And down here, it'll be y is equal to a negative of some root. How do we know that? Because this one was limited to negative x values. So hierdie ene gaan negatiewe y-waardes hê, because the x values becomes the y values. Okay, so we're first going to do the equation, but you can't leave your answer with plus minus. Okay, because they limited the original equation. Goed, so ons kry hom net eers in hierdie vorm. And then I swap those two around. Almal nog by. Okay, and from there we just have to get y on its own. So this one becomes 4 over 5x. Jy kan die x bo skryf, maar dit maak nie saakie. Is gelyk aan y kwadraat. Daai kan nog verder vereenvoudig. Ek gaan nou vir julle wys. Ons kan mos die 4 uithaal. Because we know what the square root of 4 is. Like that. Okay. And which one will it be? Plus or minus? Yes. Okay. I would still give the mark. Okay, dan 5.3 is hierdie wat ek hier neergeskryf het. Die definisieversameling van f van x het ons gesê is x is kleiner as of gelyk aan 0. So die waardeversameling van sy inverse gaan wees y is kleiner as of gelyk aan 0. So if the domain of the one is x negative values, then the range of the other one will be y negative values. Okay, now they ask us to draw them. And they want 2 points on the graphs. So the one is nice and easy, it's there. The point 0 and 0 will be on both graphs. You could go and find another point as well, it doesn't matter. What other point will be on my inverse function? Good. Okay. Now for the last one, I just quickly want to show you what they're doing. They're saying if this graph is translated or reflected through the y-axis. So that happens first. Do you guys agree that this will be the second graph? The blue one. Okay, so hy word eers gereflekteer in die y-as, dan vorm hy daai blou ene. So I'm going to pop this one out. So that's our new graph. And then they say after that, it is translated in this line. So do you see, instead of working with the negative arm of the original parabola, you are now only working with the positive arm of the original parabola. So met ander woorde, sy inverse funksie gaan hier lê. In other words, we are working with the plus value. Nee, dis dieselfde parabool waarvan ons die invers gekry het, maar hierdie keer was hy nou net beperk tot x groter as of gelyk aan 0. So you don't have to do the whole thing again. You already have, almost want to say, the basic equation for the inverse of the parabola function, but now it is limited to positive y values, not negative y values as the original one was.
The reflection is this way, it's positive.
Yes, because this is the arm that they gave you, and now this question says it's reflected in the y-axis. So do you agree that this blue one will be the reflection? Okay, so if I rub out this, if they only gave you the blue arm and asked you to get the inverse function, they're basically giving you the same parabola, but with x values bigger than or equal to 0. So then that will be the inverse function, the orange one.
Like, for example, can the reflection be the other way, the line?
No, this line is the line y is equal to x. And the definition of an inverse function is something that has been reflected in the line y is equal to x, because we swap them around. So you can't go there, because that's no longer inverse function there. Nee? 'n inverse funksie is juis gereflekteer in net daai reguitstippellyn. This is part of the definition of an inverse function, because you swap the x and the y values around. You don't swap the x with a negative y or something. Okay. So dan gaan sy vergelyking net wees obviously you don't have to write the plus down. Okay. And that's it.